The name of the program is Agricultural New Directions, Agribusiness in Support of Vision 2030. Now we are talking of becoming an upper middle class economy by year 2030. We also have our National Development Strategy 1, which speaks of not leaving anyone behind, nor place behind. Now if you look at the tobacco industry, it is one industry which is good at including everyone. We are talking of women empowerment, youth employment, and even debt recovery in our industry. To discuss this and more today, we are going to be looking at a closer look in the tobacco industry. We are here at the auction floors where we are going to be interacting with several farmers, and even the CEO of the industry himself is going to be telling us of the nitty-gritties that will make the industry successful. Stay tuned. Thank you, Zimbabwe, for tuning into yet another informative edition of your program, Agricultural New Directions, Agribusiness. My name is Watsapp. Today we are going to be looking at the tobacco industry here in Zimbabwe. Now we can't deny that this industry is very strategic, given that it is the one that brings in the much needed foreign currency. At this point in time, I have taken the liberty of inviting Mr. Gudu. He is the Chief Executive Officer of the Tobacco Industry and Marketing Board, right here in Zimbabwe. Mr. Gudu, thank you for joining us.
Thank you for having me.
Yes, as we get into our discussion, Mr. Gudu, I would like it for the sake of our audience here, there at home and our farming community, can you maybe introduce the tobacco marketing season, the 2021-2022 tobacco marketing season?
Okay, thank you very much. The 2021-2022 tobacco marketing season commenced on the 30th of March 2022, and it was almost at the same time that we commenced the previous season. The volumes delivered to date are on the lower side as compared to the previous season, owing to the lateness of rains received in many tobacco growing areas. Rains were received late in Mashonaland Central and in Mashonaland West. In Mashonaland Central, the provinces or the districts that were affected are mainly Centenary and Mount Darwin, and in Mashonaland West, rains were received quite late in Hurungwe and in Zimbabwe district, but we are very positive that we are going to get our volume. And on the quality side, the quality this time around, especially from the irrigated tobacco, is very good, and also good quality has been seen from the early dryland crop. But on the late dryland crop, that was affected by lateness of rains, incessant rains, and a mid-season drought, and the crop is looking on the lighter side.
Okay, thank you so much, Mr. Gudu. I want us to move along and speak about some of the differences. As we are interacting with our tobacco farmers, some are saying that this is a blessed year. Generally, the prices are high and they are happy. Can you maybe highlight some of those differences and what could have maybe led to those differences in this season?
I'll start by looking at the volume. As I have already alluded to, the volume this time around, we have received 26 million kilograms of tobacco, which is slightly lower than the same time last year.
Okay.
But on the pricing, the price is 11.2% firmer as compared to the previous season. There are various factors that affect the price. For instance, it's the global supply situation, and it is known that in Brazil they actually had drought, and the crop size is estimated to be lower by 80 million.
Okay.
And even in this country, because of the poor season in terms of rainfall, we expect also a slight decline in our crop size, and therefore the demand is higher. The other factors are also coming from COVID-19.
Okay.
COVID, as you are aware, disrupted global supply chains, and a lot of our cigarette manufacturing companies who are our customers have been drawing down from their inventories over the past 2 years, and this is time to restock their inventories, and therefore we do see some form of an artificial demand on the market, hence the higher the prices. And again, whilst we are talking about COVID-19, as we have seen another fourth wave in China,
yes,
our markets are very uncertain, so they want to buy and stock up as much as possible.
Mr. Gudu, I want us to talk about issues surrounding continuity in tobacco production. The industry might be encountering one or two challenges, but overall it is a good performing industry, comparing it to other maybe sectors. Can you maybe talk about issues surrounding continuity as the regulatory authority? What measures do you have in place to ensure that tobacco production is continued to being produced and farmers are continuing in this business? The merchants are also happy. It is a win-win situation. Issues surrounding continuity.
The first thing that we have to address as an industry is an issue to do with the viability of the tobacco farmer.
Okay.
As you are aware, the viability of the tobacco farmer has been eroded because of the continued increase in the cost of production. Not only the cost of production, but the USD component in the cost of production. So we need to look at alternative sources of finance, especially if we can get funding from banks like AFC, which are developmental banks, and therefore we believe that the interest rates from there will be concessionary, and that will go a long way in improving the viability of the tobacco farmer. So viability is very, very, very key. As we are aware, because of the war in Eastern Europe,
True.
the prices of tobacco inputs are expected to probably go up, and we really need to address those issues by looking at localization of producing our own agricultural inputs so that we improve the viability of the tobacco farmer.
Okay, thank you so much, Mr. Gudu. That is a very detailed presentation. You allude the fact of viability and at the same time sustainability. On that note, viewers, we're going to go on a short commercial break. We'll be right back with this and more in the second segment. Stay tuned. Thank you, Zimbabwe, for staying tuned to Agricultural New Directions, Agribusiness, in support of Vision 2030. This is where we discuss issues in the agricultural industry right here in Zimbabwe as we pave way towards achieving Vision 2030 as a country. At this point in time today, I am with Mr. Minwa Gudu. We are talking of the tobacco industry and its essence in contributing to NDS1 and Vision 2030. Now, viewers, we encourage you to be a part of these conversations. Feel free to get in touch with the producer, Wadzanai Manyore. It's on 0772-807-506. Alternatively, you can like our Facebook page, Agribusiness with Wadzanai. We are also on YouTube. Leave your comments and suggestions. They are pertinent to us. It's Agribusiness with Wadzanai. We are also now available on Twitter. And our Twitter handle there is at Agribusiness110. Now, earlier on, before we went to the break, Mr. Gudu here was telling us of viability in the tobacco industry. Mr. Gudu, we are in the second segment of our program. Welcome back. Yes, I want us to talk about issues surrounding the rebranding exercise of the regulatory authority that we witnessed about a month ago. What is its essence? What are the objectives? What do you seek to achieve by rebranding tobacco industry?
Okay, thank you very much for that question. As a regulatory authority, we had to rebrand in order to respond to changes that are happening in our operating environment. The tobacco industry is evolving. We do have challenges that are coming from the markets and also challenges that are coming beyond our markets. And therefore, as a regulatory authority and as an industry, we have to respond to these challenges. From the markets, we actually have increased clarion call for compliance with sustainability and environment, social and governance reporting standards.
Okay.
And from beyond the markets, we actually have increased work of lobbyists who are campaigning against smoking, and also other practitioners like human rights practitioners who also allege that at global level tobacco is produced with using child labor and forced labor, and therefore we really need to align ourselves to these realities. And as an organization, as a regulator, we've also restructured. We now have 3 new units in order to align ourselves to current realities. We have the inspectorate unit, which we introduced sometime last year. It was very, very effective in bringing in compliance within the industry. We have actually expanded that unit to make sure that we do away with vices that are in the industry, like side marketing, illegal tobacco sales, and so forth. We have also introduced a new department, sustainability, which is also working towards aligning the industry to those requirements.
Okay.
And we've also established a new unity called the Business Development Unity, which should actually expand the revenue for our tobacco farmers.
Moving right along, Mr. Gudu, I want us to talk about the price matrix. Each and every year, our farmers specifically always have issues saying that the price matrix doesn't change, it never changes. Since 1982, it is the same. What are your comments, your sentiments, or your word of advice to our farming community in line with the price matrix or the pricing model used in the tobacco industry?
Okay, in Zimbabwe, we do have a dual marketing system.
Okay.
We have got the auction system as well as the contract system. The auction system was introduced during the mid-30s, and in our own view, is the best method of price discovery because it's an embodiment of a perfect market. That's what we use on the auction floor, the bidding system, and the highest bidder gets the price.
Okay.
And on the contract system, the contractor and the grower agree on the price before the planting season. But what we do as a regulator, we want to set some form of minimum acceptable prices on the contract floor, and therefore, in the past, we were using grade price matrix developed from the auction floor.
Okay.
That is what we were using as a basis for minimum prices. But this year, we have slightly improved that system. So on the contract, we are using, first of all, we look at the grade price matrix from the auction floor. And we also look at the seasonal grade price matrix, comparing both auction and contract. Whatever is the higher is what we use as a minimum price on the contract floors.
Okay.
So it's not basically using only the grade price matrix derived from the auction floor. We also compare it with the grade price matrix derived from the seasonal average, weighted seasonal average prices. Whatever is higher is what is used as a basis for the minimum prices on the contract.
Okay. Now, Mr. Good, I know that you touched on it, but some of our farmers might have missed it. The auction floor, some people end up saying, or our farmers end up saying that it's better for me to be in a contract system because contract is more paying than auction. We are standing in an auction floor today. Your sentiments, just brief sentiments on that.
Contrary to that thinking,
okay.
If you look at this year's statistics, the average price on the auction floor currently is $3, and the average price on the contract floor is around $2.85.
Okay.
So there's a higher average price on the auction floor. But I know a lot of people would say, but how come that you are saying the grade price matrix from the auction floor is used as a basis of minimum prices on the contract?
Very
and yet
true.
The average price on the auction floor is high. There is a correlation between average price and rejection rate.
Okay.
So you will realize that on the auction floor, the rejection rate is higher. It's almost 10%. And on the contract sales, the rejection rate is lower, almost 1%.
Okay.
So on the auction floor, what happens is that a lot of tobacco that is mixed, badly handled, the buyers will cancel the sale.
Okay.
But on the contract sale, the contractor will discuss with the buyer to say there are two options. Either you can take your bill back to the farm.
Okay.
Or we can discount. So then the farmer will have to do what is called cost-benefit analysis.
Yes.
The cost of taking the tobacco bill back to the farm versus the price that has been offered on badly handled tobacco.
Okay.
So it's very important when people are analyzing the statistics to look at the average price and the rejection rate.
Okay.
So on the auction floor, higher average price, higher rejection rate.
Okay.
And on the contract floor, you can see there's a lower rejection rate.
Okay, thank you so much, Mr. Gudu. I know our farmers are listening. Mr. Gudu here is telling us that when analyzing the prices or weighing your pros and cons, should I get into the contract system or the auction system, you have to use two fundamental tools. He is saying looking at the average price and the rejection rate, be it in contract floor or at the auction floors. Mr. Gudu, moving right along as we round off this segment, I want us to talk about sustainability. Earlier on in the first segment, you mentioned that we have some regions and some provinces where we received late rainfalls and climate change is becoming a reality. Can we talk about sustainability? How can we ensure that the tobacco industry remains sustainable, surrounded with issues surrounding climate change, deforestation, price hikes? Your word of advice to our farming community.
So sustainability is now the buzzword in the tobacco industry.
Okay.
And this is driven mainly by our customers, especially the blue chip customers. Here, when you talk about blue chip, we're talking about our biggest cigarette manufacturing companies at global level. The Philip Morris International, Japan Tobacco International, BAT, and so forth. So what they've done is they've come up with a standard code for sustainable tobacco production, what is known as STP, or Standard Sustainable Tobacco Production.
Okay.
So we need to comply with that code, otherwise we lose our market. Some might argue and say the Chinese are there, they are there for us. Fair and fine, the Chinese have also started to embrace these sustainability codes.
Yes.
So we do not have any time. What we need to do is we comply. How do we comply? We really need to focus on reducing the environmental impact of tobacco, especially on the carbon footprint. We need to reduce deforestation. We need to come up with renewable sources of curing or renewable sources of energy. And the best way to come up with a renewable source of energy at the moment is to plant trees that grow very fast, especially the eucalyptus trees. We encourage every grower and every contractor to establish woodlots.
Okay.
Going forward, we will be motivating government to look at these regulations and probably changing it such that without a woodlot, a farmer should not be licensed to grow tobacco. These are very, very, very pertinent issues. If you look at the level of deforestation, it's so high. Take, for example, Karoi, Gurungwe district. There's so much deforestation that perhaps in 5 or 6 years, we might not have any tobacco being grown there. So we need to move with speed, grow a lot of woodlots, and come up with alternative sources of curing tobacco that are renewable. We need to tick all boxes so that we remain relevant to our blue chip companies.
There you heard it, viewers. Mr. Gudu here, the Chief Executive Officer of the Tobacco Industry and Marketing Board, telling us that there will come a time for our farming community. We need to move with speed. If you do not have a woodlot at your farm, you might not be licensed to produce tobacco. On that note, we are going to go on a short commercial break. We'll be right back with this and more in the third and final segment. Don't go anywhere. Welcome back, viewers. We are in the third and final segment. We are here at an auction floor here in Harare, where we are looking at the tobacco industry as a whole, and I've taken the liberty of inviting Mr. Minwo Gudu. Mr. Gudu, we are in the third and final segment. Welcome back.
Thank you very much.
As we move right along, Mr. Gudu, I want us to take a look into the future, say 5 years from now, in Zimbabwe, in the tobacco industry. Are you looking to diversify as a regulatory authority, say, into other crops that support food security? As we pave way towards achieving Vision 2030, we are talking of not leaving anyone behind or any place behind. Do you have any plans in future for that?
Yes, that was the basis for our rebranding. Remember, when we rebranded, we also transformed our organization from just being a mere regulator into a land use company. So we want our tobacco farmers to diversify with tobacco as an anchor crop. So we're working together with other government agents as well as the private sector to develop alternative value chains. And one of the lowest hanging value chains that we want to develop is the industrial hemp. We want our farmers to grow industrial hemp. We want our farmers to also grow cannabis. We also want our farmers to grow horticultural commodities like macadamia nuts, or even cut flowers or export vegetables. So by 2025, our aim, according to the Tobacco Value Chain Transformation Strategy launched by government last year, we want 25% of the tobacco farmers' revenue to be coming from alternative economic activities at the farm. We are doing this in readiness for a future where we might have decreased demand for leaf at global level, so that our farmers can have alternative economic activities at farm level.
Okay, thank you so much, Mr. Gudu. I want us to talk about maybe if you look at our farming community, you would understand that there has been calls from our government for value addition and beneficiation. Now, for the tobacco industry, is it possible to have value addition? Do you have any plans for that, to process the tobacco as compared to exporting semi-processed tobacco? Do you have any plans for that?
Yes, we actually have plans, as I've already alluded to. Government launched the Tobacco Value Chain Transformation Strategy. One of its pillars is looking at value addition. If you look at it closely, for now we are only value adding less than 2% and exporting almost 98% in semi-processed form. So we want to increase it to 30% by 2025. Therefore, we are encouraging a lot of our investors and also our innovation hubs to come up with innovative products that can actually add value to our tobacco that we are currently exporting in a manufactured format.
Okay. In terms of creating a conducive environment that supports or attracts investment, as a regulatory authority, where are you and what measures are in place, or some of the fundamental key areas that you think that investment may promote more tobacco production?
Yes, as I alluded earlier, the pillar on value addition under the tobacco value chain transformation strategy is looking at incentives that can be given to our investors. We are working together with other government departments like the Ministry of Industry and Commerce as well as the ZIDA in order to come up with conducive investment environment so that we can attract talent or investors to invest in our industry. It's possible, it's doable. I'll give you an example of South Africa, which does not produce a lot of leaf, but is the biggest exporter of cigarettes in Africa. So we really need to study their model and should be able to replicate that and also increase our value addition.
Thank you so much, Mr. Gudu. We have come to the end of this week's edition. Your final remarks, what do you have in store for our farming community, our farmers? Your recommendations or maybe your sentiments on this season, the 2021-2022 tobacco marketing season?
I will say this is a farmer's year. Farmers should continue to grade their tobacco finely so that they can attract the higher prices. And farmers should desist from selling tobacco outside the licensed buyers. We don't want farmers to be selling to makorokosas out there.
Yes.
Please bring all your tobacco to the markets. The prices are very positive and you actually get good return on your investment. So don't side market as well. Investors should have confidence in our system. You must fulfill all your contractual obligations as tobacco farmers. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Mr. Gudu. There you heard it, viewers. Mr. Gudu telling us that we should desist from side marketing or doing some of those detrimental ills that as farmers engage in search of higher prices. If you oblige or you are obligated in a contract to be able to repay the contractor, you should do that and honor up your side of the contract. From me, your host, Zanai Manyore. I'm also on Instagram, Mr. W Manyore, and the crew behind the scenes. Have yourselves a fabulous evening. Thank you for watching.